Good morning, everyone. I am Super Derek, and it's time for your JRPG weekly update. So grab a coffee, pull up a chair, get comfortable, and let's dig into what happened in the world of JRPGs and RPGs last week. So before we get too far into things, I'm going to address something that's going to be pretty immediately apparent to you guys. And that's that today I'm doing things a little bit more laid back, a little more lower energy. I'm just kind of a lower energy kind of mood right now, and I feel like, I don't know. Let me know how you feel about this sort of delivery, but we've got a lot to get through. Starting with some actual pretty good news from Square Enix, and then we'll talk about some bad news from Square Enix. But before we get into that, Dragon Quest XI has sold over 4 million copies worldwide, which is further proof of the fact that there is definitely a market for people to enjoy turn-based RPGs on consoles, not just on handhelds, not just on smartphones, worldwide. This has mass appeal, 4 million copies, and that's not, that's not quite Final Fantasy 15 numbers, which so far has sold over 8.4 million copies worldwide. But, Final Fantasy 15 had a lot more time to get there. Dragon Quest XI, it's not been out for all that long. And the fact that it's already sold 4 million copies worldwide when, let's talk about some other series for comparison. .hack GU Last Recode, we talked about last week how they had sold only 400, over 400,000, which that was success for a company like Namco Bandai and CyberConnect 2, whereas Dragon Quest XI, worldwide, over 4 million already. That is pretty staggering numbers, guys. And I think that bodes pretty well for us, especially combined with the fact that Octopath has been selling much better than expected. And I guess we'll just have to see what happens. I kind of don't expect The World Ends With You to be selling as well as the rest, but I'm still really interested to find out what kind of numbers that game pulls, because that just launched the other day. So, yeah, that's really good news, but that's not the only news that Square Enix had to tell us last week. We have some not so great news to talk about. Last week I talked about how they had that press event coming up. They had announced that they were going to be making an announcement. Well, it turned out that they were going to be talking about the ongoing development of Final Fantasy 15. A lot of people were expecting that to be some sort of upcoming DLC schedule, and well, that's not entirely incorrect. People were hoping that they would be starting to release some release dates expectations, but instead what we got was the cancellation of 3 of the 4 previously planned DLC packs, as well as the resignation of Hajime Tabata, who, I guess it looks like he was the Final Fantasy 15 director who's going to be working on his own independent projects. Says he's going to be cheering on the team behind 15 while he does so, but that's pretty sudden, and needless to say, it's got a lot of people both worried and pretty angry at the fact that they're canceling a lot of the promised DLCs, which, guys, a lot of people talk about this sometimes about, don't pre-order games, don't pre-order things until you know what it's going to be like. Of course, of course, this doesn't necessarily touch on pre-orders, but it's tangentially related because if you're buying a product, based on what you don't know yet, you don't know what it will be, you don't know when the things will come out, this is a cautionary tale. If the planned DLC was something that sold you on this game, well, now you're not getting all of it. At least what you will be getting is the first, is one of the episodes. I think they have some other DLC already out, but they're planning to release one more, which covers events dating back before the beginning, about 30 years before the events of Final Fantasy 15. So, that's what you got. And hopefully it'll be enough to hold you guys over until their next big project. But it's really unfortunate that Hajime Tabata ended up leaving, because that's something I think that shocked a lot of people. In Japan, people don't just up and quit, and they usually don't get up and fired. Corporate culture in Japan is a lot different from that in the United States and the rest of the Western world. People don't, climb the corporate ladder by, by jumping from company to company. Over there, it's kind of like being transported back to the 1940s or 1950s, where you have a job at a company, you work for that company, and that company takes care of you, and you take care of that company. You become a salary man. That's what I've been picking up over the years of my interest in Japan and the culture of Japan. And the fact that somebody left so, I don't know how abrupt it was, but the fact that they left at all is kind of kind of unusual. So it's got me kind of speculating, I think, about what might have been going on leading up to that. It must have been something pretty dire. It looks like Square actually, the more I look at it, Square Enix, they ended up losing something to the tune of $33 million, US dollars, that is. But they ended up losing quite a bit of money on, I think it was Luminous Studios. Yeah, it sounds like he's going to be working on some independent projects of his own in the coming future. So best of luck to Hajime Tabata. Now, we also got some other news from not Square Enix, from Microsoft, who also recently made some announcements that they acquired a couple of new studios. And I'm talking about them today, even though this is the JRPG Weekly Update, because I feel like a lot of us really do like just Western RPGs as well, at least to some extent. Like, they have a direct impact on the creation of JRPGs even. There's an exchange, a cultural exchange between the two halves of the greater RPG marketplace, Obviously, JRPGs were kind of an attempt to kind of bring the Western RPG over to an audience in Japan. So there's a lot of interconnecting. So anyways, that's why I think you should care about this. Microsoft has acquired two developers, Obsidian Entertainment, who is notable for their work on Fallout New Vegas, South Park Stick of Truth, I believe Knights of the Old Republic 2, which is an often beloved game from a lot of people. A lot of people really love that series. And they've also acquired InXile, who is also famous for their work on The Bard's Tale and Wasteland 1 and 2. Wasteland 1 and 2, by the way, was a precursor to the Fallout series, essentially. So Microsoft has acquired both of these companies now. I have mixed feelings on this, because on the one hand, it's nice that these two companies are going to get a money infusion, but I think a lot of us also realize that money infusions don't usually come with no strings attached. These kinds of companies are definitely going to be beholden to Microsoft and are definitely only going to be releasing future games on the Xbox consoles and also PC, which, if you are more of a Western gamer anyway, a Western RPG player, you'll probably be mostly unaffected, because everybody seems to know, at least here in the West, that the best RPG experiences for Western games has always been on PC, whether it's been because of just better support overall, better mods, better communities. That's usually where you're going to find your niche, and the fact that it's coming to Xbox exclusively from now on probably won't really hurt you too much in the long run. But as a fan of Western RPGs, at least in passing, this kind of sucks, because I don't want to have to go buy another console, honestly. I have a Xbox, Xbox 360. I've got a couple of Xbox 360s, and I've barely touched them over the years because of Microsoft's history of just not having very many. I'm not saying they don't have any. They just don't have a whole lot of RPGs that I care about. The original Xbox had Shin Megami Tensei 9, which was released in Japan, but we never got it. So it's kind of mixed feelings. Like, I feel like this is going to be making Xbox more competitive for players such as myself, but at the same time, I'm not looking forward to having to buy a third console, a third system. Eventually, I had planned on getting an Xbox One once they hit thrift shops. That's just how it is when you're on a poor man's budget, and right now I definitely am. So the fact that these companies are going to be making exclusively games for Microsoft's consoles of choosing and platforms of choosing, including PC, which again, if you are a PC player, this is not going to make a big difference to you guys. But to everybody else, you might be missing out. I guess if you can't beat them, buy them, right, Microsoft? So that pretty much covers it for the big news events that happened last week. But we also have some just announcements and localizations and stuff to get through. So I'd like to start by talking about Falcom, who's announced in a financial briefing for their investors and stuff. They announced that next year will be the 30th anniversary of Ys, the series, and they intend to be releasing a brand new Ys title, a brand new one, by the end of Q3 2019. So that would be by basically by September, by the end of September. So that's pretty exciting. We already know from earlier in the year during one of my other news briefings that they've confirmed that this will follow Adol following the events of Ys VIII. So this will probably be Ys IX, which is pretty exciting. I'm kind of looking forward to seeing the series progress because it's been a little while. So that's really awesome. And also from Square Enix, we had a new game announced that there will be a new Dragon Quest Monsters game. It's already in the works, and all we really know about it so far is that it's going to be featuring Erik and Mia from Dragon Quest XI, which is really exciting to me because Erik and Mia were a couple of characters that I really enjoyed, and I really wanted to see more of Mia, and I think that now we'll actually get a chance to see that happen. So Dragon Quest Monsters is in the works, and I'm really looking forward to seeing exactly what happens with that. And then we also have some Western RPG releases that were announced, some localizations that were announced, that are a lot of them actually to get through, starting with Death End Request, which was going to be released in February 19th in North America and on the 22nd in the European Union. Following that, we're going to see some Dragonstar Varnir in summer of 2019. Also in summer of 2019, we're going to see the release of Arc of Alchemist. And then lastly, in the summer of 2019, Date a Live, Rio-Reincarnation, which is not related to Live a Live, by the way, is coming out also in summer of 2019 with a PS4 version coming out with some censored models and some computer graphics, whereas the PC version, the Steam release, will be unmodified from its original Japanese release. So if you are at all concerned about censorship lately that's been happening on Sony consoles, which is something we'll probably talk about some other time, then definitely make sure that you have a Steam account ready and make sure you pick it up there to avoid any compromises in your gameplay experience. Nippon Ichi Software of America is going to be releasing a bunch of physical PlayStation Vita titles here pretty soon. We're going to be seeing on March 19th of next year for about $30 each physical copies for The Lost Child, Penny Punching Princess, and The Longest 5 Minutes. These are some pretty interesting indie games for the most part that look really, really interesting, and I actually will probably be talking about The Longest 5 Minutes before too long. The games look pretty fantastic, and these are going to be the last PlayStation Vita titles that NIS America release physically. So yeah, physical copies of PS Vita titles are definitely kind of going by the wayside. The Vita is dying, and these look like things that you'll probably want to add to your collection for either for collecting purposes or just for playing them. It's going to be a pretty limited release though, so just make sure that you've saved up your money for the Ides of March, because yeah, your wallet's probably going to get stabbed several times or something. I don't know. I was trying to do a Caesar joke, but that was terrible. Sorry. NIS America has also announced that The Liar Princess and the Blind Prince is going to be coming out in February of 2019, February 12th. It's going to be coming out for the PlayStation 4 and Nintendo Switch. Then we've got some Japanese release dates. No localizations announced for these games, but in Japan, Nelke and the Legendary Alchemists have been delayed in Japan until January 31st. That may go on to affect the English release. I believe Nelka and the Legendary Alchemist has been announced as coming to the States. Pretty much all of the Atelier games have been coming to the States lately, so I wouldn't be surprised if this also will in turn affect the release date of the English version. And now it's time for one of my favorite parts of the JRPG Weekly Update, which is to talk a little bit about myself and what I've been up to a little bit lately. Starting with Wednesday of last week, I talked about the games that should have been on the PlayStation Classic. And I feel like a lot of people just aren't very excited about the games that Sony announced. And I talk a little bit about what they should have covered. What kind of gaps did they leave open with their launch or their release of the 20 games that are going to be on this classic? And I think that they left a lot of openings, and I feel like the RPG genre was severely underrepresented considering their popularity on the PlayStation. So I guess we'll see what happens. I hope that this console is able to be opened up a little bit by the community, if you know what I mean. Following that, on Friday, I had the Pokemon Nuzlocke challenge, which went really well over on my Twitch channel. And then on Saturday, starting at 10 a.m., I played through Terranigma again in one sitting. And this wasn't a speedrun or anything. This was just playing back through it to take it all in, to soak it in, and re-enjoy the game that I loved so much several years ago when I last reviewed it. The run total took me about 24 hours, almost to the minute. Like it was coming down to the wire, including some last minute grinding. It was a fun experience, and I really appreciate everybody who showed up and showed their support. And of course, the donations that I received through that were also phenomenal. So thank you all so much for that. I think that the next game that I do this with is still kind of up in the air. It might be something like maybe Chrono Trigger or maybe Secret of Mana. I haven't really decided yet, but one of the reasons that this is such a laid-back video today, and one of the reasons that I'm just so lower energy than usual, despite the fact that I've already finished a cup or two of coffee here, is the fact that it took 24 hours and no sleep during that time made me a pretty low energy person by the end of it, and I'm still kind of recovering a little bit from that. So again, everybody, thank you so much for your support during that. It was a lot of fun, and I can't wait for the next one. And this week over on my Twitch channel, we're going to be finishing up Dragon Quest XI. I am in the middle of the post game of the game. Holy crap, what a post game. I'll talk about that more in a forthcoming review, but before that, I'll probably begin moving on to Kingdom Hearts 1, the HD remixes. I'm going to be making my way through the series in preparation for the release of Kingdom Hearts 3 next month, or not next month, in January. See, I'm tired. My dates are all wrong. But before Kingdom Hearts 3 comes out, we do have a few games that are going to come out this week, starting with Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee are launching in the middle of the week, and also Fallout 76 is coming out this week. And I'm not sure how I feel about Fallout 76 right now. I guess I'll have to give it a shot at some point and see. I'm guessing it's probably not going to feel much like an RPG, and that's just me. But hey guys, that's the end of the news that I have to talk about, so thank you all so much for joining me today. I'll probably be editing this for a little while, taking it a little easy. I might stream a little bit later on today than usual, but I'd like to thank you all so much for joining me. And again, I am Super Derek, and this was news to me. Have a good day, everyone.